Hi, it's Bronwyn from Rap, and today I want to talk about expanders. I have a neo soul future hop track here, and I've run the entire mix through a sort of tape saturation. I've used tape delay to mimic the analog tape saturation sound that you get. This has played around with the dynamics a little bit, so I want to reintroduce a little bit of freshness and expand the dynamics a little bit, and that's why I've used an expander. However, before we get into what an expander is and how it works, let me just play you the track with and without the tape delay saturation plugin. Here we go.
And I've been thinking about my character lately, feeling like LA ain't the place, just maybe when you don't need clouds to find a spot that's shady. That's a sign to get out before you end up crazy. And I be looking like California, feeling like Chicago, but what I'm in my zone like a storm. For all my grunge kids in the Midwest, always dodging on the 5-0, staying on their tippy toes.
Right, so you can hear how adding that tape delay, tape saturation effect has really squished the dynamics a bit, it's fattened up the sound, but I just feel like I'm lacking a little bit of freshness and edginess. Now, what expanders do is they increase the difference in loudness between the quieter and the louder sections of audio, making the quiet sounds even quieter and the loud sounds louder. They're pretty much the opposite of compressors, and if you want to find out more about compressors, please go look at our online courses at raponline.net. There's a nice quick dial series all about compressors. Now, when expanders work, they turn down the volume when the signal gets below the set threshold, and they turn the volume back up when the signal level goes above the threshold. So expanding is really nice when you want to increase the dynamic range of the audio. So, for example, if you have a noisy recording and you want to reduce the volume of the quiet parts so you don't notice the noise as much, then you use an expander. And basically, that's called downward expansion. And you probably have used it more than you realize because it's the actual process that powers noise gates. Now, just quickly to recap, in compression, a signal is brought down in level when it crosses a set threshold, and this is called downward compression. In upward compression, it works from the opposite end of the spectrum. When a quiet signal falls below a predetermined threshold, then it's brought up in level. But in upward compression, the overall dynamic range of the material is still being reduced, it's still being compressed. And this is the main difference between upward compression and expansion. Yes, the lower level is louder, but the higher level still remains the same. So the dynamic range has been compacted and it's still considered basic compression. Upward expansion is similar to compression in that it affects a louder signal as it crosses the threshold. But instead of clamping down on that signal, the expander pushes the sound up in level. And that's where the process gets its name from, expansion. It expands the overall dynamic range of the signal. Now, on an expander, you will find the main controls are the attack, the release, and the ratio. Now, the attack time, it sets how fast that expander is going to respond to signals above the threshold. The release time sets how fast it reacts when that signal drops below the threshold. And then your ratio determines how much it's going to turn the volume down. A higher ratio results in the volume being turned down even more. A very high ratio of 12:1 or more is actually considered a noise gate. Right, let's have a listen to how this expander can expand my dynamic range and bring back a little bit of life into this particular mix after running it through the tape saturation. Let's have a listen to how this works.
And I've been thinking about my character lately, feeling like LA ain't the place, just maybe when you don't need clouds to find a spot that's shady. That's a sign to get out before you end up crazy. And I be looking like California, feeling like Chicago, but what I'm in my zone like a storm. For all my grunge kids in the Midwest, always dodging on the 5-0, staying on their tippy toes. And And I've been thinking about my character lately, feeling like LA ain't the place, just maybe when you don't need clouds to find a spot that's shady. That's a sign to get out before you end up crazy. And I be looking like California, feeling like Chicago, but what I'm in my zone like a storm.
Well, that's it from me. I'll catch you again next time.
And I've been thinking about my character lately, feeling like LA ain't the place, just maybe.